And I will hand it over to you, Helmut.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Lara. And an introduction is good when it's short, so I will be brief. What you see at the slide is our flyer, but why did Prasanna School of Public Health start this program? The school itself is quite new, only 5 years, but we made it on place number 3 of all schools of public health to the Shanghai ranking that came out 2 weeks ago. So we are very well positioned to work in public health issues. And India, as you know by your background, is an important player in the field of pharmaceuticals, medical devices, and so on. And you know by your work and your personal experience already that this is a highly regulated market, not only for safety reasons, but there are other issues too that feed into this regulatory business. And as regulatory science is an upcoming field, we decided to start a research center on it, and we could recruit Dr. Lada Lyons to chair it and have impact on it. And of course, now she is together with ECPM the ones who run this executive training course. And I think it's a unique thing for India, and it will offer you a combination of the markets from the US, 240 million people, Europe, 500 million people, and the rest of the world, so that from India, you are better prepared to deal with this international connection. I think that was long enough not to take much more of your time, and I hand directly over to Dr. Annette Mollet from the European Center for Pharmaceutical Medicine in Basel, Switzerland, Europe.
I thank you very much, Professor Brandt, for that nice introduction. And yeah, let's start. I would like to shortly show you the story, why it all came about, that we already since 30 years are offering training in pharmaceutical medicine. Yes, please. Next slide, Lala. So these are some milestones from our history. As I said, we just turned, our institute turned 30 years, and we just celebrated 1 year delayed because of the COVID pandemic. So we had just in June this celebration, and we had produced a brochure with our DNA, as you see that on the slide, with all the key events. I've just picked 4 of them, which are actually important to illustrate the whole journey. So you see, in 1989, at that time, Carl Peck was the director of CEDAR at FDA, and Bob O'Neill was director of biostatistics, and they were actually on a sabbatical in Europe, and they realized that actually at that time the authorities didn't have any statisticians on board, and that they also realized that the communication between authority, academia, and the industry was not that good, and also that the training level of all the participants was not the same. So actually, at that time in 1991, together with the research-based companies in Basel, at that time it was Roche, Sandoz, and Ciba-Geigy, they launched this course. And what is still fascinating today is that we are on a neutral ground, we're non-for-profit, neutral at the university, and this allows us really the key stakeholders from the whole healthcare system to invite them on site or online, and having an exchange and discussion, and this is really a great thing. Then in 2008, we expanded our program, and we were able to found an American course, which is offered in Washington and a few times in San Francisco. And in 2008, we also founded the center in Beijing University. So we are now collaborating worldwide, and we hopefully hope to work together with University of Manipal in India. We then participated in a European program just the last point, which was actually initiated by the EU government who gave the money and pharma industry to really set the syllabus, the content, what actually people ideally should have learned or should know to do successful drug development. And that was this project called PharmaTrain, and we then started to audit all the centers working along these lines, and that's why we have this label, PharmaTrain Center of Excellence. Next slide, please. Here you see some numbers from our institute. On the left-hand side, this is one of the first cohorts, and on the right-hand side, you see a picture of just the latest cohort. We were able in these 30 years to train more than 2,000 students. They were all working either in industry, academia, or in governmental bodies. So this is also a very, very nice opportunity, not only to learn, but also to network with all important colleagues in the field. It's international, so we have also a lot of different nationalities, which I think is also very enriching. And on the lower hand side, you see that more than 1,200 people achieved a certificate, about 660 a diploma, and since 2015, it's even possible to do a master's in medicines development. Next slide, please. I mentioned the teaching syllabus before. The teaching syllabus exists already for a long time. You see on the top the definition of pharmaceutical medicine, and you see it really includes discovery, development, evaluation, registration, monitoring, and also the market introduction of a drug. So it really encompasses all the parts of drug development. And it was first actually defined in 1976 by the Faculty of Pharmaceutical Medicine in the UK, was then adopted by the IFAP, the International Federation of Pharmaceutical Physicians. And then, as I mentioned, since 2010, it's called the PharmaTrain syllabus, and it's updated regularly. Next slide, please. These are the 13 sections in the syllabus. So actually all universities who work along these lines cover all these topics which are mentioned on that slide. Next slide, please. Some additional numbers to give you an idea what are actually the participants of our course. You see on the left-hand side, educational background of the students. About 1/3 are MDs, we have MD PhDs, and then I would say a large part of a bachelor, master's, or PhD in natural sciences, be it pharmacy, biology, biotechnology, chemistry. But we have also people with an MBA or studied economics, or even lawyers working in ethics committees or in banks who actually fund startup companies. They also need, of course, to know about the drug development to understand their plans. The workplace of the students, is actually 60% are working medium-sized, big pharma. We have small-size pharma, but we have also CROs, regulatory authorities, university hospitals, etc. Please, yes, next slide. And also the line of work, you see here we have mainly it's clinical research, but also medical affairs, business development, and from regulatory, clinical pharmacology, biostatistics. So I think this is also the great thing about it in interacting among the students coming from different departments. Next slide, please. The faculty is also composed of international experts. We have about 150 experts. You see on the left-hand side, they also represent all the key stakeholders in the healthcare system. And also our advisory board includes academia, industry, and regulatory experts. And we feel this is very important to collaborate, to really actually enhance this communication and the understanding of each other. Next slide, please. And this is just depicting, I mean, we started in the middle in Europe and we expanded to the US, to China. And of course, it would be absolutely great also to include India in this endeavor. And before I hand over to Lada, I quickly show you what kind of electronic platform we have, which supports the course. So it's a platform where we offer the course documents, also background literature and video recordings. And that's just to give you an idea how it would look like. Yes, thank you. And I would like to hand over to Lada, who will talk about the course content and the different modules.
Thank you very much, Dr. Annette. And it's such an honor to be able to work with ECPM and Basel University and bring this amazing course and bring it to India and also really adapt it for the needs and for the environment in India. So that's what I'm going to present to you now. It's how we have taken that very successful model that you just heard and how we're bringing it to India to be able to also offer the content and upskill new professionals or experienced professionals in India. So we have been discussing this for some years about how could we bring the model about creating this executive training program on drug development and regulatory science. And you see both topics there, drug development and regulatory science, because we believe it's really important to understand end-to-end drug development as well as the regulatory requirements in order to be able to do regulatory affairs to the best level. So here you see the flyer that we'll distribute after the call to all of you with the objectives of the course and with as well how the course is going to be structured, but I'm going to go into more detail on that in the next slides. And as I said before, really important to cover end-to-end drug development, and especially as well covering the paradigm shift that we see in drug development, in clinical drug development. So this is the diagram we're all used to, starting with preclinical, phase 1 to 3 clinical trials, approval from health authorities, and then health technology assessment or payer assessment and phase 4 clinical studies, and all of the post-marketing requirements that we need to comply. And in this course, we really cover from lead identification, optimization, up to health economics, and also some topics on medical devices, because we're seeing that convergence more and more. So I just wanted to bring the message of how important this end-to-end is and why this course is covering that from beginning to end. And as I said, very importantly, the course also incorporates the paradigm shift that we're seeing. So we don't do phase 1, 2, 3 as we used to do anymore. We see conditional approvals being granted by health authorities, maybe with phase 2 data. We see the use of real-world data. We see the use of innovative clinical trial designs. And in the course, we're also incorporating all of this innovation so that we can all stay up to date and be able to incorporate this into our day-to-day work. And especially from a regulatory perspective, we also see more early and continual dialogue with health authorities. As I said, moving away from phase 1 to 3 to more iterative phases of development, more flexible health authority pathways, reduced filing review times, and earlier evidence being accepted. And in this course, we want to cover all of those aspects from an international perspective, from a perspective in India, so that you can incorporate it in the future in your work, in your regulatory strategies and drug development work. So with no further ado, what does that mean in terms of modules? We have 6 modules over the course of 10 months, where we start with global drug development, innovative advancements in the pharmaceutical business environment. We continue with the non-clinical phase before first in human, and always with the regulatory considerations that come with it. Then we go to the different types and designs of clinical studies, including placebo and control studies, but also very importantly, including the innovative trial designs, such as master protocols, adaptive trials, and others that we have seen being very used during the pandemic. Then we move into clinical and safety data evaluation in Module 4 with biostatistics and regulatory considerations again, as well as one whole module focused on global and local registration and approval with regulatory processes, operations, and strategy. Well, you will hear more details into how to engage with regulators early, as well as how to lead to successful marketing authorization applications and approvals. And in the last module, we look at product launch, market access, health technology assessment, and we also incorporate topics around medical devices, because we see more and more those two worlds coming together and the importance of also knowing more about medical device development. This slide is impossible to read, I know, but I wanted to go over some important topics that are being covered within those modules. As I say, we start with the R&D process in international pharma business environments. We go over discovering, modifying, and patenting new chemical and biological compounds, trends in global drug development and challenges of innovation and opportunities, as well as trends in India. Very importantly, we cover the international as well as the local perspective. Building promising drug molecules and selecting successful candidates. So you see that early development stage well covered, as well with concepts on genetic and genomic factors, different types and designs of studies, as I said, statistical considerations, development of protocols and investigator brochure, legal and ethical provisions, and all along we build in all of those regulatory considerations, pharmacovigilance reporting requirements, regulatory activities, which are all of those national and international bodies that are responsible for medicines regulation. We look into detail on ICH, the International Conference of Harmonization, and then we go into that pharmacoepidemiology benefit risk assessment throughout the whole life cycle, extensions of indication, and so end to end with health technology assessment, health economics, and medical device development. So really comprehensive end to end, weaving in all of those regulatory considerations along the way. And how do we do it? So you already heard from Dr. Annette how ECPM has been working, and we're applying those best practices here with applied learning through interactive case studies. Very important to go through these case studies with enough time to discuss it in the group and really apply the learnings that we're having through the lectures. We'll also share preview videos where we'll then, within the course, in discussion with all of the participants, go over the content and discuss the content in more detail. We'll also have theoretical classes supported by international and local faculties, so experts, biggest experts in the field from international countries, Europe, US, as well as India. And then very important, we'll have plenty of time to apply the acquired knowledge and discuss it within the group with the participants to enhance the understanding and the networking. And you saw from Dr. Annette the platform that is supporting all of this, so we'll be using that platform to support your learning experience throughout the course. How we're structuring it, we have been thinking about how to structure to enable working professionals to upskill and reach next level while you're working. So the course will go from Thursday to Sunday, Thursday and Friday afternoons, as well as Saturday and Sunday the whole day. And we'll be mixing, as I said, theory classes with preview videos, as well as case studies to be discussed. We're planning to start in November, and we'll go up to end of August 2023 with the modules every 6 to 8 weeks to be able to balance, as I said before, your work together with the learning experience. And we'll have a mix of theory classes and group case studies. And we'll be really excited to have your registrations until October 31st and welcome you in the first cohort on November 10th for the first course. So with no further ado, we wanted to make sure that we have some time for Q&A, and I will come back to all of you and see if there are any questions that have been shared in the chat. So Kirit Ladaj, which markets will be covered under regulatory processes? Yes, we'll cover US, India, EU, and other markets. So we'll make sure to give that global perspective, because we know in India, you're not only doing work in India, you're really also looking at international work. So we'll make sure that we cover all of those aspects. Annette, anything to add on that, covering the global reach?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we cover, and we try also to cover India Pacific, Asia Pacific. So I think really all parts of the world.
And that also goes to the question from Kushangi Kumar. So does it cover clinical research aspects in US and India? Yes, absolutely. Again, we'll cover all of those topics from an EU, US, India perspective with experts from all of these regions to be able to give that global perspective in the course, but as well cover the very important topics in India. If you have any other questions, please feel free to also unmute and use the mic, because now we have some time to go over any questions that you may have.
Perhaps if there are no questions. There is one. Otherwise, we would like to have. I have a question because I don't know the work situation in India. I mean, we planned now for Thursday evening, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and we were really interested if this is feasible for you. I think we really would need also that you would be available on Fridays to really cover all the topics which are necessary. And this is something we would like to ask you is that feasible for you or not?
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Perfect, thank you.
And Megana will be coming back to you, don't worry. We will be reaching very soon with those details. Thank you. We also have a question on whether it will be held online or face-to-face. So at the beginning, before the pandemic, we were planning this face-to-face because the situation is still not clear. The first course will be online, and we'll be looking whether we can pivot as well later to a face-to-face course. Kirit, any preference on face-to-face or online? No, and feel free to also answer that over the chat. So
there's one question: pricing and reimbursement, of course, is part of the course. Yes, we also prefer face-to-face, absolutely, because I think the networking is really much better. So I don't know, this is just, thinking out loud. Perhaps we can have a meeting at the end of the course.
And where will it be held, Annette, Dr. Annette?
I think we lost connection with Dr. Annette. So I see already that there is some mix of preference between face-to-face and online.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe what we can do is a combination, and we can be discussing that with the first cohort, where some maybe the last module. And on the location, very good question, Professor Helmut. Great. Licensing and drug pricing, I think we already had the answer. Yes, we will be covering that so licensing is throughout the first modules and drug pricing in the last modules with the health economic aspects. And then pharmaceutical development and analytical development. So if I understand correctly, with analytical development, we'll cover as well CMC perspectives in the course. So absolutely clinical development, CMC and analytical and quality development, as well as all of the stages from drug development, as I mentioned, and all of the regulatory considerations that come next to it. And as I said at the beginning, it's really important to understand that end-to-end in order to also be able to apply that knowledge in regulatory affairs. Any other questions or thoughts from those of you who are online?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I'm back. Sorry, I don't know what happened.
No worries. We were discussing the face-to-face and online, and we see a mixed preference, so maybe a combination.
Yes, I was thinking about perhaps next summer at the end of the course. I don't know if a face-to-face meeting would be possible. Why not? We'll see how it develops.
Absolutely. And for the ANDA processes, that would be covered in the regulatory module, where we go into a lot of depth on all of the different regulatory pathways. So absolutely, we will be covering that abbreviated new drug application process.
Mm-hmm.
And we look forward to having, as you saw in the presentation from Dr. Annette, really a good mix between working professionals from industry, from academia, as well as health authorities to participate in the course. You see that as well very often in the course in Basel, right, Dr. Annette?
Yeah, I think this is really key, that you hear the different topics from different perspectives, and then we can also have a discussion and of course see how we can collaborate.
Fantastic. We have 3 more minutes. If there are any questions, feel free to also unmute.
And I think one should clarify, for the start, the course is online, and
Exactly.
later we can decide going, meeting in person.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that is the reason why the question about where will it be?
Okay,
is,
okay.
yeah,
I see.
virtual.
Of course. Yes.
But we are happy to adjust to the upcoming changes. If
Yes.
everything goes well, then of course we change to in person as soon as possible. As long as we have
Absolutely.
the unstable situation, we will do this online. I think by
Absolutely.
this, then and you know, Thursday afternoons and Friday afternoons online could be possible, and perhaps one can even live through. But Friday afternoon and Saturday and Sunday then can be in person. So I think there will be good combinations possible. So don't take this as set dates. We will work on it to make it most suitable to you. And it depends on the interest of those who enroll in the end, because then we know whom to cater for.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Dr. Annette, do you want to take the question on?
Yeah, we just have a question if it's for beginners or for experienced people. I think as a beginner, you can follow, of course. I think you probably have to read more background literature. We usually advise that 1 to 2 years work experience is an advantage, because you have many more questions. You know, you can because you have already an idea about the whole system. So actually, I guess that's my personal opinion. If you have at least a few years of experience, I think your take home is much larger. But we have also we have even 2 medical students who did it during their undergraduate training, so they knew that they would have just to read more background literature. But it's possible, and the exchange is always very nice to also with the peers.
I can imagine that those who are youngsters in the field would profit even more from the network than those who are already established, because when you enter a new field, it's often difficult to talk to the right people outside your own institution.
Exactly. And what we also have, I mean, a lot of people do not know what different jobs there are in this whole industry. And then sometimes you realize, oh, there is another topic that would also be of interest for me. This could be a future career step for me, for example.
Exactly. Great. I think we are at time. We have planned 30 minutes for this. We'll maybe give 1 more minute for any last questions. You can also reach over email to us, and we'll be sharing the recording of this together with the flyer with everybody who registered. And we look forward to seeing you in the course in November. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye. Thanks.
Thank you.